nearly Christmas, you're looking for gifts to give, but you can't think of any that are good. So why not instead help us to live and give us all your money? Patreon.com/Shame City.
I'm sure that would have clicked.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Hello and welcome to episode 53 of That's a Shame. I'm Declan.
Yeah, you are.
And opposite me, as always, it's my pal.
Hi, I'm Isaac. I don't know why Declan broke into that 90s inflected Fresh Prince rap.
Right.
But it was good.
It might have been your...
my-
or the beat you laid down.
The beatboxing. I can't help it, I'm a rhythmic guy.
I mean, it's going to sound weird after whatever our song was this week that we haven't
Who
recorded
knows?
yet.
What people might not know about those songs is that...
But
now,
might
they may
have
sound,
hopefully guessed.
it may sound like the composition phase for those little Patreon intros takes, what? Days, weeks. Months.
Seconds.
What we do is I walk over to that piano, my hands just go wherever they will, and Declan's mouth just spits out the most convoluted rhyme he can. Cock it, lock it again.
Oh, you weren't
It's a
expecting
classic.
it. It's a subversion of rhyme.
It's very powerful. Anyway, welcome back to That's a Shame.
Hell of a show
What would you say so?
we've got
already?
planned for you today.
Planned is a key word here because would you say
look,
we've
okay.
been planning with any regularity?
No, look, I actually wanted to talk about this because it was a unique experience for me today.
Right.
We decided last night that we were going to have to record today,
At some point.
and I have to leave to go and tutor in an hour or so. And
We'd also done a fun thing. The last thing you said last night
That's
was
what I was
like,
about to say. Like,
We'll come
make
in,
sure
yeah.
that we both don't let the other oversleep.
Yes.
So we definitely have time to record. So we've both gotten up in time.
Yeah. Plenty of time.
Yeah.
I embraced the morning.
We've both had a shower.
I let a man leave his parcel here.
Yeah.
That sounds very
very
dubious.
horrid.
He paid well.
And I've watched a bit of Come Dine with Me.
Wow. I've had sugar puffs.
We spoke about some dreams that we'd all had.
Crazy.
And then I came in. I thought it's 2 o'clock,
Recording
2.5
o'clock.
hours.
Yep.
I came into Isaac's room and I said, "Are we ready to do the show yet?" And he said, "Not exactly." And now at this point, listeners, I was worried because when Isaac has been in his room for a while and you come and you remind him of something that he's supposed to have remembered himself anyway, and he says, "Not quite." That normally means I've decided to do something better, and I'm leaving.
I've had a better offer. I'm moving out of the flat.
And I'm out. So I was worried that it was going to be, I'm just off out, I'm going to bang bang, whatever. But
Can
instead,
you put some context
No,
behind that?
none
That is
at
a
all.
restaurant. That's
No,
it's not an activity.
it's another form of employment. And instead, from Isaac's mouth,
Studious look in my eyes, I would imagine.
nimbly did he utter,
Yeah.
"Not quite. I'd like some time to prepare."
For the show.
For the show.
Not just for anything.
Not just, what do you expect?
Yeah. I mean, I've always had a rigorous commitment to this project. I think listeners know that. They know who's kind of driving the desk,
Yeah.
cranking the cog.
Only the most...
Crank
No,
a
you don't
cog.
crank cogs.
I know I do. I've not worked in a factory.
But yeah, it was odd. Like, I didn't quite know...
How to react.
Yeah.
He collapsed on the floor.
It was like your granddad saying he was gay or something.
It's crazy.
You're just like,
well, how am I here, Grandad?
It's like,
And he's like, people can change. Sexuality is fluid, all right? Get with the program. Very progressive.
Very
My dead
progressive
granddad.
old man. It was really quite disturbing. I didn't know what to say, so I just said okay. Like, I just left
He
it.
backed out of the room.
I even like offered some bargain. I was like, it's okay. I've done it. I don't expect you.
I shall plan for the show.
I don't expect you to do it. I've come
It's
to
not your
learn. So Isaac has come to the show
I'm prepared.
with some content.
With a Google Keep note.
No.
Full of some of the most boring,
I love that
dry.
I love that you've
academic.
you've used your Google Keep to keep something for 10 minutes.
I kept it from the computer onto my phone so I don't have to turn and not be audible.
Yeah, that is
Because
probably
that would
good
be a
because you
shame
do
in
keep doing that.
podcasts.
Yeah. It's a weird kind of mishmash of an episode we got today because we've both had kind of sort of ideas we wanted to talk about,
Yes.
but neither of us had quite enough content, and then we sort of shoehorned them together into one sort of field.
In reflection, or on reflection, as some people with a greater grasp of language might say. I think there's a kind of unity here that's been something that's been like playing on my mind since we moved in, because before we lived here, I had not watched television by which I mean for more than about 20 minutes at someone else's house.
Yeah.
For probably 6-7 years. I've never really been a big fan of the TV. I like programs, and we're exactly the generation that decided that it was a waste of everyone's time. And right we were, indeed. So like I've seen Christmas programs and stuff, and it's always on family events and things, so people don't have to talk to each other. You know how it is. But with no regularity had I ever sat down and a TV had been on and that was like the main thing in the room. That's all changed because we have mentioned before that we have this huge TV that the landlord just left on a whim in our possession in the living room. And so to create a sense of home, of, a gentle babbling sound, often when I'm by myself, or even if there are people in the room, we're all like doing different things anyway.
Yeah.
Then we just have it on in the background. And something that confused me as a child has confused me even more as an adult, and it's adverts. Now, the kind of first argument for why I find it baffling is why anyone allows them to exist. Why people, consumers, haven't been in uproar about just how long advert breaks are, and they're definitely longer now than they used to be.
As an example of this, my girlfriend and I love a bit of trash TV, love to watch a bit of absolute drivel, just to have a good laugh. And so we had been watching X on the Beach,
What
MTV's
is that?
flagship series, in which a bunch of people who have ex-boyfriends or girlfriends,
Right.
but are also
On a beach.
good looking in that kind of towy way.
Oh yeah, that's the only way as Essex goes.
Are on a beach and then literally out of the water walk one of their exes.
That's weird.
It's like really oddly shot because it's so painfully fake. Like, but it's not even ashamed of how fake it is. It's embraced it. So
What trope are they playing off though?
So
Like-
here's what they do, right? 3 of them get called via the iPad.
Oh yeah.
To go down to the shore, and they sit and they know that one of their exes between them is going to like come out of the water, and they're sat facing the water, and then they go, oh, I wonder who it's going to be. I wonder. Oh my God. And they look, and then the camera cuts and there's just someone striding out of the water. Like they wouldn't have seen them being like dropped in. Like they haven't done this 20 times
I think their
already.
commitment, MTV, to realism is such that they have them like completely submerged for a week in a big like swimming suit, and they come out like gasping with all seaweed in their face like someone from the Black Lagoon. That'd be a horrifying image.
They have to perform this like resuscitation on their ex.
It's about how, it's a bonding thing.
Yeah.
Bonding through trauma.
But the reason that I bring it up, not just because it does tie in with the bullshit of corporatism, but is that on television, this is like an hour slot.
Yeah.
And when we missed one and had to watch it online, like pirate it, it was...
You mean...
I
paid for it?
I would download a house. You're right.
Wow, okay.
It was 32 minutes long.
28 minutes of ads.
Yeah, and
Bloody
and
hell.
of those 32 minutes of content, like I would say at least 8 of them are just, coming up on and we just saw on. Like, there's probably only 20 minutes of the actual show. That's how boring these people are, is that
so
in a week of interaction, there's like 20 minutes worth of conversation that they can justify putting on television.
I wonder how much they filmed to get that 20 minutes, because you could literally just create, like Charlie Brooker shows in that experiment, any narrative from double that amount of footage. It's such nonsense. Another thing that kind of clued me in to the fact that everything's just getting worse when it comes to TV. It's a dying medium and it needs to be taken out back and shot.
Like, it is letting out that kind of howl of a trapped
Not television
animal.
Format, because that's never been better.
No.
But television broadcast, just total bullshit. I am a big fan of Colin Hay, who is he was the frontman for Men at Work. And I first found out about him because he's in an episode of Scrubs, which I used to watch after school in about year 8, I would say. It was probably on at like 4 o'clock. They did like a double bill. And one of the songs that is like their most famous Men at Work song is called Overkill. And I don't have perfect pitch, but I have like good pitch memory, as anyone does who's heard a lot of songs. You can normally tell if it's something's odd about it. And that episode was on about a week ago. And I was in the kitchen like making food. And Colin Hayes starts playing his song in it. I was like, something really odd there. So I went to my piano and it was tuned up by like 3 semitones, which means that it was sped up significant percent so they could fit more adverts into the slot it should have taken. And so I Googled about it, and I'd not heard of this before, but apparently it's just a common thing. Like syndicated shows, they just speed them up by like 15%. And they're like, people won't really know or care.
Yeah.
We can just fit in 15% more.
They also cut out scenes. Like,
oh yeah,
I've noticed that from
That's
Friends.
made me feel like I was going mad.
Yeah, that like, I've noticed that with Friends, because I've been watching Friends like on its, or while it was still on, like watched its syndicated loop on E4 and then now on Comedy Central.
Yeah.
Since I discovered it. And we have them all on DVD at home.
Yeah,
we had all of them. And so, know most of the episodes backwards, and you just watch, and each time the loop goes round, each episode gets shorter and shorter. Like, it's just going to be the opening credits. Hey Monica, what? I love you. No, you don't. Oh my God, there's a duck.
Friends will return tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Now at 4:05, it's Scrubs. Colin Hay.
I can get to. It's just the end. It's a tragic time. And I guess the second lead-in I've had to be thinking about this was the first time I saw what is supposed to constitute a perfume advert in the modern age. Because there was, I have an abiding memory of this really annoying advert from my early teenage years, and I think it was Natalie Portman and I think it was Chanel, but there was this scene where she goes, I'm a dancer, I love to dance, and it's this like really protracted, it was one of those that ran for like 3 minutes, the whole ad break, and it was kind of a love story between her character and some guy who was also famous but I can't remember, and they just sort of danced, and then at the end it was like, buy some perfume please. And that's all because they've accepted that you can't smell television. They're just like, they've just gone so mad with it. It's so abstract.
There's a great Dylan Moran bit about perfume adverts where he says that when he was younger, a perfume advert was a dopey looking woman in a field, like just kind of like spinning around, and it's like, and now they're all really like grungy and horrible. And he's like, they used to be called sort of like fleur de fleur for women, and he's like, and now it's just like some like deranged woman like screaming in the middle of a club,
like breaking mirrors,
genocide for men and women. But
it's true.
But I think there's the same with the with things like Coke and Pepsi. They've realised you can't taste it.
Yeah.
There's a Pepsi advert on at the moment where some people go surfing with luminous surfboards at night.
Pepsi.
And at the end it says Pepsi. And like, that's literally.
It's so odd that works though, because it must work. Like there must be research.
Did you watch the video that I sent to the group yesterday?
What was it?
Of the rejected, what's his name? Something Fraser.
Brendan Fraser?
No.
From The Mummy?
No, he's a director. And he's the guy who did that really famous Guinness advert of he waits.
That's what he does.
And Cadbury's asked him to do one for Flake.
Yeah.
Did you not watch it?
No, I've not seen it.
It is
We'll link to it.
the single most haunting thing. It's absolute. It is everything I would ever want to do if I had his reputation.
Yeah.
Because it's literally a half-naked man painted red as the devil in some kind of like darkened, like abandoned manor house kind of situation with that kind of grainy filter over it, so it looks like a 60s movie. And he's just dancing seductively to some classical music, and then some
camera.
and then some young women in white nighties kind of crawl towards him, and he throws flakes at them, and they eat them seductively and like rub them on their lips and like tongues, and then he dances some more as the music reaches a crescendo, and then it just says "Succumb to the Crumb." Flake.
That's fucking incredible.
It's absolute. It's like a minute and a half long.
Oh wow!
And Cadbury's went, well, no,
certainly not.
But I was like, I watched it in absolute delight and horror. It was. Imagine doing that, like, because what I would like to imagine is the meeting at Cadbury's. They're like, this guy. You remember that Guinness advert?
Everyone does.
Everyone
always tops the list.
All
of
them.
Best
It's
adverts.
like the best advert that there's ever been. It was incredible. I cannot wait to see what he's done for.
Oh God,
Jesus Christ!
we're aiming this at children. The devil's only tangentially related to Cadbury. We keep him buried in Bourneville.
It was absolute art. So we'll link.
That
to
sounds like it's moved beyond into the kind of knowing realm.
Yeah, exactly.
Nonsense.
I mention it in a respectful way.
So that, like, do you remember the advert, the Judderman advert? For it was some vodka.
Yeah.
And I think it was Julian Barrett from the Mighty Boosh playing this giant balletic figure who, like, the whole theme of the advert was beware the Judderman, my dear, when the moon is fat, which is one of the most horrible phrases I've ever heard. Describing the moon as fat makes me feel physically ill, because you look up at it and it just looks like a big suet ball hanging in the sky. Where once I had but love for the moon, now it just fucks it up.
You fucking love it.
And he just sort of creeps around in kind of silent movie jerkiness, and then all of a sudden it's an advert for vodka, and you're like, well, what? Why? Like, what? You're not selling me the experience I'm going to have of drinking it. I just don't understand how any of this works.
It's just about something that you'll remember, I think, at that point. They're like, it's kind of, it's the inevitable final form of advertising, isn't it? That in the end, it's just one step above having subliminal messaging in something. It's that they've gone, well, actually, it doesn't have to have anything to do with it. It's just like, I mean, the Gorilla advert for Cadbury's.
Another great advert.
Nothing to do with chocolate.
It is purple, though.
It is purple, but that's it. Like, that's just that is as subliminal as you can probably
eat
do.
chocolate.
And he just plays the drums to
Phil
In the Air
Collins.
Tonight, and it's art.
Yeah, I guess.
But everyone remembers it.
But did it make you want Cadbury's?
No, but
is
it
there
made
not a
me
danger
remember
that,
Cadbury's.
But I remember loads of things I don't like. I remember Hitler. I'm not going to give him my Patreon dollar.
Stupid.
But I must be at least, like, I think we privilege ourselves too much as removed from the effects of market
definitely.
forces.
I'm sure that we
but
are.
everyone does. Everyone thinks that, well, it doesn't work on me.
But for someone,
it
that's
obviously
working.
is working on everyone, or they wouldn't be doing it.
Not working
so
on me.
some
I
level,
fucking don't like chocolate, so there you go.
you're a lost cause. But on some level, there must be research that says, like you say, it doesn't matter if you mention anything about the product, what the brand is, just as long as you know the brand, that's somehow enough. But it can't work forever, because if we just continue with these adverts, like if a child was born in now and only saw Paco Rabanne's Insolence advert where a man just sort of morphs into a snake in front of some diamonds, and then you want perfume, like, it's going to get so far removed from the concept of what the product is that they're just going to be like, well, what am I buying? Like, where do I look for this man snake diamond package?
It looks good, whatever it is.
Because it only surely works. It's predicated on brand awareness. Like, I know what Cadbury sells and I've eaten it. But if you hadn't, like, how does that function?
Well, I suppose it's based on the fact that that's not the only way that you would know of their brand.
You've got to have some adverts about chocolate.
Well, I mean, the idea of brand awareness, and you've got to know that. I mean, I think that it is just the fact that you need to know what it is and be reminded of it. And even if you already know it and you've already bought into it, you need to be reminded of it. Because there was the thing about the Sega games.
Sega!
Yeah, that sound, their audio logo or whatever you call that.
Yeah,
what is it
their
called?
ident, their sting.
Yeah, something. Yeah, Sting, I suppose. Took up an eighth of the cartridge for like the original Sonic games because they were it was so important to them that you hear that.
And it was also a much better like quality of polyphony than was available in other games because they didn't have any. They had like multiple voices and stuff.
Like voice, like sound channels. It's madness.
Just feels like they're kind of not trying very hard. If as much as you do in advertising and as much as people are paid in advertising,
well, that's what I was saying.
Peak bullshit job that it is. That their metric for success is. Have people still heard of Coke? It's like, that is really the very least of your worries.
Yeah.
Like, sell me on it. Like, what? I need a bit more than just knowing it exists to be prompted to get something, I think. And I guess everyone thinks that, but then people are buying stuff.
So what you're saying is they should take a leaf out of our Patreon songbook.
And just improvise. That would be great if they just cut to a man in a little room and he just sort of...
The head, the CEO.
Well, it's brown, it's sugary, the can makes a nice sound.
It black with brown.
Coke.
Black with bits of brown, highlights of brown.
Yeah. Dreadful.
But we kind of, this had morphed into, you wanted to talk a bit about slogans because they are the absolute nadir of all advertising.
I guess because as someone who has worked in like writing copy for similar things, as we've talked about on the show before, you're aware that the less text you have, the less real estate, the more precisely chosen each word is. Just do it. That will have gone through hundreds and thousands of hours of confirmation of like brainstorming, focus group,
blue sky thinking.
Just try it. No, you're fired, Mark. Try the door.
There's that joke in BoJack Horseman where there's like a lazy guy wearing a t-shirt with, I think, the Nike tick backwards, and his t-shirt says "Do just it."
Do just it. Yeah,
do just it.
And so with the slogan, it has to be precise. It has to be a very limited length to be memorable. It often has to like accompany some kind of musical beat. Like there are so many things going on with it that you know that all of the thought is kind of focused on this one thing with an intense precision. And yet they're so unambiguously poor. And there are just so many. Like there are so few that you think, oh, that's clever or that's good. Or that makes me want to buy a flake. Succumb to the Crumb is the best one
That's
I've ever
the best.
heard.
Yeah, exactly.
And
some of them do just work. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned before about when my nan started to go, I know I've mentioned to you, but when my nan started to go mental with the old Alzheimer's.
That's the one.
And she always had hated adverts with a genuine passion. The first time that I ever heard her swear was just while round hers on a Friday night once. I think we were watching Countdown or something, and the ads came on. She went, "Fucking adverts again." But when she was kind of in a state where she was almost catatonic, like she didn't really speak at all or anything. I think she was round for Christmas, and the TV was on, and she was just sat in the corner with a little whiskey mac on the side next to her.
Nice.
And the TV was on incidentally, and it was a McDonald's advert, and it came to the end, and the logo came up, and you heard the, and she just went, "I'm loving it."
Wow, McDonald's would pay you.
I know,
for that
exactly.
If you could put that in like an upbeat testimonial with some like ukulele. Dum, 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 dum,
I remember my nan.
There she sat,
smiling her eye and drinking her hand.
That's dreadfully dark.
Oh
dear. But
that's
yes,
a Black Mirror, that is.
it is. They are an insidious, the one that has stuck with me against all odds, because it's a service I know I will never use.
Yeah.
It's an advert I've not even heard that many times because it was mostly on the radio. So it'd be like when someone else was driving, and it's just auto glass repair, auto glass replace.
Yep.
I'm like, they do.
Frighteningly good.
It's very effective.
There was an advert. I don't know if you'd have heard it. Maybe they were like more national, but they had a first class windows.
No, I've not heard.
And it was on the radio, and any child who grew up in Essex in the last decade and a half.
Like if you shouted this in a club in Southend.
everyone would know. They had this song, and it was the maddest little advert. I think this was someone's whole career, and it was some bloke with a kind of weird pirate / country accent. And singing a song. It was like, first class windows have a number that is great. Chelmsford 22 66 88. First class are the best. Call them up and you will see when you when you pay for your front, you get your back done free.
I don't like that message.
Yeah, I was like
creepy.
and it's just if you say first class window, people are like, no. No, stop it. Not
just
the
assume the
windows.
fetal position.
Pay for your front, you get your back done
listening
free.
to the Teletubbies
Pay for
theme.
your front, you get your back done free.
I paid for the front. I think it is a special kind of hell to be the person who is like ultimately responsible for those adverts, because the thing is, they probably work on no one better than their creators. They're the ultimate kind of Frankenstein's monster. Because if you were involved in writing da 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 da,
That would be
I'm loving it, you would just like open doors and you'd hear it. You'd like catch your own eye in the mirror. Da 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 da. You'd just spend your whole life plagued by it.
Yeah.
You'd hear like a car horn and then another would be like ba ba. And you go da da da. You'd just be haunted
like
by
gnawing on
the
your
ghost
own
of your own
fist.
crimes against humanity. There must come a time, as has been explored to some effect. Oh, in Minority Report, there's a nice bit on advertising that's quite subtle. It's a good bit of world building that he walks past some posters and they're like, "Good evening, whatever your name is in this film."
Well, there's
you tried?
because there's a bit after he has, because they're based on like your iris scans.
Yeah.
And there's the bit after he has his eyes replaced. Great sentence.
Hell of a scene.
Where he like walks into a shop. He walks into Gap to like try and buy some new clothes, and the poster goes, "Hello, welcome back, Mr. Yakamoto. Would you like those tank tops that you got last time?" And he just walks around like, "Mr. Yakamoto."
But there must come, like, the ethical thought behind advertising doesn't seem to be like a very public decision. Obviously, we have people that regulate if Coke said this cures AIDS, which actually
That would be
leads
so
unnecessarily into one of the things I found, one of the bad slogans. But if you make obviously false claims, unless you say probably Carlsberg before them, then you get done. But the techniques themselves don't seem to be subject to any discussion.
The fact that, you know, your browser remembers everything about
and Facebook puts a cookie in that tracks every site you go on.
Yeah, and the fact that some people seem to have evidence that your microphones are listening to what you're saying.
Yeah, unproven, I think, but there's a lot of
anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
I have my own in that I once whistled a fucking, what's her name? The All About That Bass one, Meghan Trainor.
Yeah, that's her.
Song.
No treble.
That's the one.
Yeah, I remember.
I once was like humming it along to myself, and then immediately
got an advert for therapy.
Immediately, yeah. No, like I went on to like, I can't remember, I think it was YouTube or something, and for the first time ever, along the bottom of everything I watched, there was like, "Hey, buy Meghan Trainor's new album on Apple." I was like,
And I guess
I'm not that into it.
But yeah, I guess like we're only going to remember the times that happened.
Of course,
confirmation
yeah.
bias sort of things. But there seems no reason to believe that they're going to regulate themselves.
No.
And with things like Face ID, there's a lot of talk in the privacy community about Apple's new phone because it has this animojis thing, which seems almost comically dystopic in terms of, remember the Waldo episode of Black Mirror? So it is, for those who don't know, it has face tracking built in. So your face is now your password. But the way they're demonstrating this tech and kind of getting people used to the idea that, don't worry, we can see what your face is doing at all times and track it quite well, is that you sort of move around and this horrific elephant looking figure or a cat or something moves and bobs around with you. And things like eye tracking, the idea of like adverts that require your gaze to pass. So in the way that you skip an advert now after X seconds, it could be done by attention. So it could be like, unless you're looking at this advert, it's not going away. The possibilities seem quite horrific. But on the same point, we know that they're quite shit in some regards. So whilst there is a huge amount of danger to consider, if the best that Corsadil could do for their advertising campaign
Here we go.
in 20...
It remains.
Is it still?
It remains.
It's, correct me if I'm wrong, Corsadil for people who spit blood when they brush their teeth.
Yep.
Now, I'm not too worried
I think
about
they've
that.
actually cut that down to for people who spit blood.
Boxers, just at any point.
Yeah.
Spit blood. It's a horrid expression on its own.
It's just like...
The bluntness.
It doesn't even have a ring. It's not even
For people
in
who
any
spit
kind
blood
of meter.
when they brush their teeth. Corsadil. It's dreadful.
Corsadil. For people who spit blood.
Yeah, it should just be shouted by a different character. And it's just like, you have to marvel at the sheer balls of whoever pitched that as their starting point.
Yeah.
They were like, well, what's our demographic? It's people who might be getting gum disease, might be worried about it. What's the symptoms? I guess it's basically for people who spit blood when they brush their teeth. And someone was like, say that again. For people who what? Spit blood. Now, it's long, but I like the length. It has no attempt at any of the expectations of the form.
It's captured again in the 30 Rock bit I told you about the other day, where they try and sell some sofas and then realise that they're all desperately uncomfortable. So they just change the advert to try and sell discomfort. And he's like, what did we used to sit on in the past? Poles, girders, comfort. That's not American. And it just culminates in the slogan, which is Couch Town, sit down or get out of the way. It's just the same school of thought that it almost does not matter.
No. And what Corsadil have really lent into this advertising campaign, because it did receive, I think for quite a few people, it was the first time that they were like, what? There was a real disconnect between the target market and the response, but they've stuck with it. And I don't know if you'll have seen the advert, the print advert that accompanies it, where there's a woman whose eye is bleeding. And they say, you wouldn't ignore this.
Yeah.
So why ignore blood when you brush your teeth? Just like get a peek at it again.
It's just
It's
quite horror, isn't it?
It's horrific and unrelated. And I guess it taps into like paranoia about, well, I saw a bit of blood once and I did spit it rather than dribble it out of the old mouth. And I buy 8 gallons of Corsadil every day.
So, but as well, that part of the problem with this is that they don't have to be horrid to be shit.
No.
Because we mentioned this one and Mark brought up
Holland and Barrett.
Pop in and grab it. Holland and Barrett.
Doesn't rhyme or mean anything. Grab what? I can't just go in and grab anything.
It's just steal.
Yeah.
Come in and steal.
grab it.
Holland and Barrett.
Sounds like a shit bingo call.
Yeah.
For a kind of baffling bingo that's gone beyond our understanding of numbers.
Yeah.
They're just shouting words. People are like marking it down, hoping they're not going to be purged. There is a real sense of having given up, I feel.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of like links to one of the things that I wanted to talk about, which was poor kind of reviews, like advertising for shows, because they seem to have given up very much there. I remember I walked past a poster for an Emily Sandé album, the one that was out, I think, last Christmas or something. And the best quote that they could find to put on it was one of the albums of the year. But like that phrase, without the actual intonation that you have to put into it, literally means this was an album that was released this year. This was one of the albums that was released this year.
Go for
I think,
it if you want.
like that, if that's the best that you could think to put on the poster, if you couldn't find anything better than that, make something else up.
Yeah.
This was epitomized by something that my girlfriend sent me a picture of, which was she was on the tube and there was an advert for the Carole King musical.
Oh yeah, beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And on it was the absolute death of advertising. The review that they'd put on the poster was, "You'll know all the songs." And this review was from TripAdvisor review.
Wow.
Like not even
an audience review on TripAdvisor
a
reviews
play.
a temporary play
I know.
that's going to go.
And you just think, well, you've That's it. Like you've lost.
What are they telling me then?
You've
Is
given
it that
up.
I will know them in advance, or I will know them afterwards, or one of the two?
They give you a set list.
Either way.
Like, it just doesn't.
There's
doesn't
a lot
mean
of
anything.
a lot of print advertising that if it's like part of the same campaign, there's a real disconnect where it just doesn't work. It doesn't follow through. So do you remember the Kendall Jenner Pepsi advert that got a load of backlash?
Goodness, yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, it kind of bizarrely co-opts the Black Lives Matter movement to try and sell Pepsi.
And says that cops are fine as long as you give them a drink.
Yeah, and it's like, well, Pepsi's going to solve racial
Racism.
relations in the United States. But their slogan is, I think it's spoken in the advert, if I remember it, it's like, Pepsi, live for now. But written down, it's like, live for now. It's like Pepsi's deliberately contributing to my early death, which is a lovely idea. It's nice to think that there's someone inside who's trying to subvert it and be like, actually, it's really bad for you, so just don't bother. I've made a list of some more that I'm going to just throw out.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
And it's a mixture of ones that I've found in my research and ones that I remember from my life. And on the subject of art with bad reviews or bad slogans, one of probably the most egregious I've ever noticed myself, which was a campaign that seemed to last for months for a film that was in cinemas for less than its own running time. Do you remember Clash of the Titans?
Oh, yeah.
Titans will clash was the slogan, which is really the least I'm looking for in a film.
What about the War for the Planet of the Apes film, where at the end of the trailer, Woody Harrelson's character is going, "There will be a war, and if we lose, it will be a planet of apes."
A planet of the apes?
No,
just
a planet
of apes.
of apes.
Why would you say the? Doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't happen. They're not the only apes.
There's a film called Gods of Egypt.
I remember. Oh, yeah.
The slogan was "The battle for eternity begins," and the YouTube channel Escapist, have you seen their stuff?
No.
Had the following to say: "The battle for eternity begins. Is it even worth trying to decipher that? Either this is the beginning of a battle that goes on for eternity," which is hardly selling it. It's saying the film is akin to spending the afternoon at your in-laws' house, or it's referring to a dispute over the ownership of eternity, which is even less engaging. Why would anyone want to own the concept of eternity or watch anyone else talk about it? It's a good point. You feel like a lot of those people who are paid a lot, I would imagine the marketing departments for that, they're just looking at the title, being like, if we reorder the verbs and the nouns here and then put a will or a must.
What would be like the worst that you could like
Lord
make
of the
up?
Rings, will Lord.
What about if you have?
Okay. You can edit that out, right?
I will. I'm not going to.
No. What about if you had big fish? The fish. What's big?
The fish must be big. You can do it with any film, surely. You just change.
Some like it hot. Some do like it hot.
It's a shame. What else have I got in my list? Oh, I alluded to this earlier, but Lucozade, for quite a long time, because I remember this being the case, they had Lucozade AIDS recovery. Lucozade AIDS recovery.
No.
That's bad.
That's
isn't it?
really quite poor.
I mean,
Do you think that was intentional?
No. How could it be? How could anyone have okayed it? Audi, you might remember Truth in Engineering, which is a bad slogan anyway, because it sounds like a cult sort of thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're going to go and worship a clock. But it was especially bad when they were found to have been cheating on emissions tests for all their diesel cars.
Oh, yeah.
For like years. So that kind of undermined that. You'd think that if you knew your own company was
Was that
doing
Volkswagen, did you say?
Volkswagen own Audi,
Oh, right. Yeah.
parent company. If you knew that your company was engaged in that, which they did because they were doing it.
Yeah,
You'd think
they did because it was
maybe
them.
truth isn't what we're going to hinge our campaign on.
No.
Nothing sucks like an Electrolux.
Oh,
How does that make you feel?
That's a shame.
This was for a slaughterhouse. I found this one on Reddit. These animals are just dying for you to taste them. Never been happier to have converted back to vegetarianism. This is the most problematic one that I found, especially because it was only from 2015 and it's for Bud Light. You may remember there was some outrage about it, which is quite understandable because their slogan they went for was the perfect beer for removing no from your vocabulary for the night.
Oh, yeah.
How did that happen?
That is like a joke, isn't it? Like, you couldn't say that and not have everyone in the room go, well,
No.
that's a no.
You've put it back in mine. I just don't understand the amount of approval that it must have gone through. Like, is everyone that works there just stupid? Do you think there's one really charismatic leader who was like, we shall push forward with this?
Well, I don't know. I sometimes think this about the news. Like, they do this every now and then, and you think, like, how many hands must the script for BBC News go through before it goes on? And yet still they manage to get in. I've seen it twice now after, like, grand national winning jockeys have been in an accident the week after, and they have on the news described them as being in a stable condition. And you're like, just don't. Like, come on. If we can notice this the first time it's said, someone somewhere must have realised this is what's going on.
Maybe they are just all fucking with us.
Well, I think that it's more because we've spoken before about the idea of you keep getting promoted till you're at the point where you're least qualified for your job. But I think that something we haven't necessarily talked much about is this idea of how disconnected from all of the levels beneath you get, the higher up you go. And I think that is truer for wealth than perhaps anything else. It must be the case that once you reach kind of a certain point, and it might not even have to be like a financial point. I think it must just be like a state of mind in terms of being like the CEO or the leader of something. Even if you're just the front runner on a project, that you just lose sight of anything that isn't your goal.
Yeah.
Because it just seems that all people in these positions just fail miserably to understand how what they're putting out will relate. Like, how people are going to react to it. Like, I just think that there's such an enormous disconnect between people who run things and make things and people who consume them.
But they must be consumers in other areas of their lives. Like, they're not gone. But it's just the structure that says, like, well, you must be right. I mean, look how much money you're making. It must be a good slogan. It's the rest of the world that's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder also if there's any, like, psychological benefit to purposefully having a really poor slogan that we then, because we're giving free advertising to all these companies
I
now.
suppose.
So maybe they've played us in a big way.
Would you listen to this and then go, well,
I'm going to go and see
Clash of the Deal, right? Here we go.
Sounds like a great...
They
will
do bleed all the time. From the gums, from the knees.
There's a great example. I read an article about, I can't remember which brand it is, of, I think, tampons, that is like, make every period a happy period. And there was this feminist writer who was like, this was so obviously written by a team of men that it's just painful to look at. Like, the bare minimum is like, let's just get by with this.
Yeah.
Let's not make it a happy period.
What was the one yesterday, the tweet from, was that Hollywood Insider or something? There was the BAFTAs or the Emmys really need a feminist host this year, and Seth Meyers is the guy to do it.
Sake.
Just retweeting like, everything is terrible.
And that was from that's like an actual news story. Fuck's sake.
It's just like, come on.
Give it a go, guys.
I mean, to be fair though, I've plastered this as a problem for rich people and people in management, but I think that it just is a problem for everyone in a sense. Which is why I added the project manager thing, because one thing that I mentioned to you yesterday was that Norbert, lovely Norbert.
Oh, Norbert the student.
Norbert the student that I tutor.
Norbert.
He has, as I might have mentioned on the show, a phenomenal setup, fucking enormous screen. But while I was tutoring him yesterday, he kept getting these little pop-up messages from an extension, like a Chrome extension, called Posture Minder.
Posture Minder.
Yeah. I think because the last two letters of
creepy.
posture are RE, so it's like posture reminder, posture
That's
reminder.
very, very poor.
Very poor. But the way that it reminded you to
Of
stop,
posture as a concept.
to stop slouching, was through the most patronising and insufferable series of messages. I've written some of them down for you. One of them was, "Sit up straight, chum."
Chum.
Chum.
Wow.
Then, "Whoa, stop that slouching, amigo."
Oh no.
Like, who's
writing this?
Who
It's
thought
like
oh,
fellow
people,
kids.
people will love this? Yeah. My favourite was, "Enough of that, Quasimodo," which is
No.
just
He did not say that.
Yeah.
Wow. He was an actually disabled,
Literally a
fictional,
disabled
admittedly,
man.
man.
Yeah.
That's dreadful.
So I had a look to see if anyone else had pointed this out, and I found one of my favourite reviews of all time now. They're giving it 1 star. Okay idea, but the messages are so annoying. I don't like being called cuz or sidekick by an app.
Imagine being called Sidekick by a
little
fucking
program.
Chrome extension.
So bad.
That's so funny. What is even the point of those things? There's like the Apple Watch tells you to breathe every so often. My mum's one tells her to. We were in like the cinema or the theatre or something, and it lit up, and she like looked at it really annoyedly. I was like, "What was that?" I texted her. She's like, "It's telling me to stand up." Just
so
shut
bad.
up. Get a grip, watches.
I think that to take this though in a slightly darker direction.
Ooh, I'm up for that.
Yeah. I think that there is a problem with this sort of callous disconnect, this inability to recognise how what you're saying might be received.
Yes.
Especially in a corporate environment. And the epitome of this was told to me by my sister the other day. We met up for lunch. And I was talking to her about her job, which she doesn't hugely enjoy, and is kind of like looking
Weird.
to move.
I thought people loved all their jobs.
I know, especially
an
where
outlier.
they're like managed by cunts.
Oh, I thought that was a real plus.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that was actually something like a negative. Yeah. But she was saying that at the moment it's one of the worst things that the corporate lifestyle has introduced, which is that it's appraisal season.
Okay. Now, having not worked in any of these structures, I'm going to assume is that where like your manager gives you feedback on your strengths, your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Does it involve any like personality test sort of things?
No, so they give you a form to fill out with like how you think you're doing, how is the job suiting you, what are the bonuses of the job, what are the drawbacks, or what could we do, X, Y, Z, what are your career aspirations, X, Y, Z. You give this form in, they have a look over it, and then you have a face-to-face meeting, and then they send you...
Oh, I'd love to do this.
They send you the form back with some like feedback. And she said that one of her like strongest colleagues in terms of emotional strength. She was fucking huge, the woman. No, just like a very
robust,
confident, robust, yes, is a good word. Woman. She said that my sister said she walked into the kitchen to find her sobbing, like in absolute pieces. In fact, what she actually did was walked in and the woman had her back to her. And so my sister went and went, "It's Friday!" And then she turned around and was sobbing. She was like, "Oh, sorry.
No, it's Thursday." It was a
Gave
joke.
her a hug. And the reason she was crying was she'd got this form back and on it was written the single most horrible thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
Right? What they'd written was, "We don't think you will ever be able to achieve anything you believe that you are able to achieve." And no, anything that you ever believe you will be able to achieve.
Why? Based on what she'd written on this form.
Right? Seemingly. But here's the thing. She hadn't put anything in the career aspirations box. She'd like left it blank.
Maybe that's why.
So
Maybe that's
they
by
don't believe that
definition.
she'll be able to achieve
Nothing.
anything ever.
What? Why?
Like, it's so unnecessarily horrible. Like, there's no, what do you think you're motivating someone by saying that we don't think that whatever you believe at any point in your life that you could achieve, you will ever be able to.
That's mad. That's like cataclysmically poor.
That is the worst feedback you could ever get.
Where do you go from there, though? It's like an essay that I had a student. I mean, this is a much less bad version, but I have one of my students had just got an essay back, and the first bit of feedback in red pen, she'd circled a paragraph and just written no.
That,
like,
I
where do you
once
go
had
from
exactly
there?
the same feedback on an essay, but I watched him mark it. Like I was standing next to him, and he read this, and the worst bit was that it was a paragraph that I'd done like my own research for this, and I'd kind of like come up with my own ideas for it. It was only year 9, fuck's sake. It was a fucking geography essay, but I was quite like proud of this paragraph. I saw him read the whole thing, and then just like no. At the end, I was like, what? Okay. Imagine that compared to, because I got in touch with you when I was packing to come here, because I found essays from the incredible Claire Westall,
who is a lecturer at York University.
Yeah, she was like head of foundation year or head of first year at York, and she was
very, very
the most frighteningly clever person. And I'd had the privilege of being taught by her for a few modules, and her essay feedback was bar none the best.
It was the perfect union of succinct, cutting, and just hideously accurate.
Yeah, and I was, I'm in particular sent through a part where I'd started a sentence with "in truth" in order to combat someone else's interpretation, and she'd circled it and just written, "Why are you so obsessed with the idea of the truth? Why not just tell me what you think?" And I just crumpled
Claire,
on my bed.
I don't have any self-confidence.
I'd also had the audacity to write it further on in the essay,
Oh,
so I
no.
got a reminder later on, like, again,
I would have torn that bit
what's
out.
up with the truth, retrospectively, like, getting rid of it.
She never saw it. Well, that's dreadful. I mean, surely there are grounds for, like, some kind of
That's just bullying.
kickback, because it literally is like that is
That is
just
just
workplace abuse.
horrific.
That's an attack on everything that you could ever
Yeah,
conceive
because
of.
the thing about it is that it's like a virus, because now, even if you lower your expectations, you still
still
can't
gonna
reach
fail.
them. Like, if your expectation is to prove that wrong, you never can.
It's quite self-defeating, I guess, in a way, because you do quickly reach a paradox of, like, if you just kept, like, inverting your beliefs every day, you're going to end up in the exact
Somewhere.
middle. So it's going to have some effect.
Yeah.
In a way, it gives her an ultimate power over the whole universe.
You think like a little equation for the meaning of life.
God, she is a new deity.
God, she's lucky.
Wow, I wish people would bully me more. I don't, that's horrid. We should offer solidarity and publicly release details of this company so that our listeners can flood them with mail saying that all their dreams are meaningless specks.
Having brought the show down, though, in that way, I feel it's my responsibility to bring it back up again.
I would hope so. What are you going to do? Pass out some
What
balloons?
I've got is better than that. I was thinking about bad reviews, and I thought, who in the world might have some bad reviews?
Of them?
No.
Or have
written some bad reviews. And, of course, we return to none
The
other
inimitable.
Danielle's blog.
Oh, okay. And she reviews things?
She's reviewed, would you believe it, books.
No, I wouldn't, actually, because she didn't show any signs of having engaged with many.
Well, like, I mean, we need to do an update episode on her generally, because
There's been a lot.
there's a lot to cover.
Okay.
She's been nominated for an award.
Wow, that's good. Well, congratulations. I was always almost on Danielle's side.
Her goals for November, she did a whole post on that, included 2 charitable acts.
Not stealing from food banks. There's one for you.
Not giving the homeless Monopoly stickers. She actually seems to have rehashed that, but it's exactly the same, but she's chucked some emojis in.
That's good, actually. That is good.
Really, like, help sell it to the electorate.
What episode should people go back to if they don't know what we're talking about?
I don't know.
It was called the Basingstoke
Food Banks.
Yeah.
I think it's episode 26.
20-something, yeah. I would say that's right.
So, I've got 2 here for you, because they are quite brief. I don't, maybe she doesn't want to go on and on,
Yeah.
but they are quite brief.
She's a succinct person.
The first is a book called The Couple Next Door by Shari LaPena. Already, the review starts with the, but with no E on the end.
Okay, that's an interesting style.
Couple Next Door, none of that capitalised, is a gripping thriller, that is capitalised,
Good.
published in 2016 by an English teacher called Shari La Pena. I'm assuming it's La Pena rather than La Pena, but I'm assuming that she just hasn't bothered to put
The little thing over the end.
Yeah, I could be very wrong. Could be very, very wrong, but that's just...
Sherry La Pena.
I'm not saying La Pena, or it's not La Pena because anyone in. This book is about a married couple who attend a dinner party next door. They leave their young baby next door due to unforeseen circumstances.
I've already lost track
such as the party.
which houses these are all taking place in.
So there's a couple.
They live in a house. Next door to which is a party.
They left
next
their
door
baby.
to that is a baby.
No. In their house is a
Okay.
baby. I think it's a not very thinly veiled Madeleine McCann rehash. They leave their young baby next door due to unforeseen circumstances. That can only be the
Babysitter's got
babysitter didn't
crushed
turn up.
to death.
But why describe that mysteriously as unforeseen circumstances?
Because I bet it turns out to be a plot point.
They forgot the party
Well, that could be it as
and
well.
decide to check on her every half an hour. When they arrive back home, the baby is gone.
When they arrive back home, Kate McCann killed her.
Definitely dropped her in a well. This leaves us wondering who has taken her. Does leave me wondering
That's a good
You're
point.
right. From the moment you open the first page, you are sucked into this world of chaos.
It's a big vacuum book.
You are introduced to some bold characters,
Oh no, it sounds like they're all going to flash us.
racist, and are unable to work out who is dishonest and who it's truthful.
Okay, that sounds a bit tedious.
This book has a range of controversial characters with different backgrounds.
Bold and controversial is not selling it to me.
Throughout the book, I was constantly undecided on which characters I liked and which ones I didn't.
That must have been difficult.
At one point, I actually disliked them all.
No.
Even the baby.
Especially that dead hidden baby and the unforeseen sitter.
A quarter of the way through the book, I was wondering how they would drag this story out to the end.
That's not good, is it?
However, each chapter leaves you suspecting a different character and wondering if the baby is alive. There are a few shocking milestones throughout the book.
Such as the 100th, 200th and 300th pages.
I was shocked they even made it there. I'm shocked they even dragged this story out that far. And I would never have been able to guess the ending. Now, forgive me, listeners, but I don't think that necessarily means it was that shocking.
I think the baby's just there all along.
It was never missing. Danielle
Danielle
just
fell off her
misunderstood. If you're looking for a book, Connor,
That's the loosest.
that every time you put it down, you are still thinking about it, ... then this is the book for you.
Okay, I thought you were going to recommend something else.
I'm excited to discover this author has another book, but she already has, so she's excited that she's discovered not. I'm
good.
excited to discover
Yeah,
this
just
author
every
has
time she
another book
reflects.
called A Stranger in the House, which was published this year, and I cannot wait to read this next. Now, that was The Couple Next Door. That was a
Okay.
review of that. But I've saved
Does
the
she give
better
it a star rating or anything?
one. No, nothing like that.
That's good.
Just said it
because
was
she's
the
not-
book for you if
that's
you
a
were
bit
looking.
hackneyed,
If you were
isn't
looking
it?
for a book,
That's the book for you.
it was the book for you. Because a book that leaves you thinking about it every time you put it down is
Yeah.
any good book.
Yeah.
So
So therefore it is just for
it's
us
just
by
de
definition.
facto good.
Yeah.
Now, this book is called I'm Travelling Along by Samuel Bjork. Travelling Alone is a...
Oh, it's changed title.
Yep.
Good.
And also, I'm certain has also perhaps changed nationality.
Right.
Travelling Alone is a German book.
Oh, yeah.
And in my case, I read the version that was translated into English.
Thanks, Danielle.
It is set in Germany, is a crime novel about a police drama
About a police drama.
with some
It's the
horrific
people who make CSI get shot.
with some horrific and sinister crimes. This is the sweetest, most tragic sentence.
Okay.
Although I may not have been able to pronounce all of the characters' names or all of the towns that they lived in,
All of the words that were used to describe any of them.
I felt as if I entered a fascinating and cultured world.
Oh, I've gone back to really liking Danielle.
The style of which this book was written in,
Yeah.
I've reverted back to not, was very similar to Paul's Hawkins books.
Paul's Hawkins series.
Yeah, well, there
Hawkins
is an
here's a
apostrophe
who.
in Paul's. So, in the sense this is a new sentence, but whatever. In the sense that there are lots of different characters, all with their own story,
Oh, the
and
loosest
linked to the bigger picture.
Right.
That's
like a novel.
That we call narrative. Some characters I found it difficult to love or hate, but in the end, it's clear the motives of the characters.
Good. Seems like she really struggles with knowing how to feel about characters.
Yeah.
Which is not something I really think about very much when I
No,
read.
maybe she's a psychopath.
Maybe.
Maybe she's the only stupid psychopath.
Apparently it's quite common that psychopaths are quite stupid, actually.
No, but art tells us they're not.
Oh, that's true.
So we're going
Mads
to with that.
Mikkelsen.
He is the bitch.
Um,
I was interested throughout,
good.
not knowing whether
Not knowing whether.
each page would bring Maya closer to the links or to the horrific crimes.
It's not going to bring you further away, is it? Almost by definition.
I found this book a longer than normal. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I lose interest when it's a long read, but I was hooked all the way through.
Good.
It was one of those books that when you put it down, you are left thinking about it.
Oh, another one of those.
Why did she do that?
Why did you do what?
What was the person's motives? If you're looking for a police novel,
Then please don't.
that's not
If
a
you're
genre.
looking for a police novel.
That's linked with chilling and unusual crimes,
Okay.
then this book is defo of interest for you. It was recommended to me, and now I am recommending it to you.
Thanks. It's a service, really, isn't it?
And that's her sign off.
That's good. So we're going to have an update on Danielle in a future episode.
Yes, definitely. We need to kind of go back through. She's been to a wedding.
Oh,
She had a bit to drink.
Oh, no,
if you
she
will.
didn't.
Yeah, she had a bit to drink.
I'd like to round off the topic with the results of a survey I found of the UK. And it's about corporate jargon. And
Okay.
about the top 10, I think, 10 or so phrases
I think I found the same one.
that
Go
are
on.
used that people despise the most.
Yeah.
So we're going to just
let's-
run through, let's get our thoughts on them from the start. The top one is, no, I don't think it's the same list.
Interesting.
Touch base.
Yep.
To
That's
touch
what I've got.
base.
Or touch base offline. Let's touch base offline, yeah?
That's horrid, isn't
Let's
it?
get in the same room, yeah? Let's meet, let's talk.
Blue sky thinking, a classic.
Yep.
We're on a journey.
Oh. Now that is horrible
Suggesting a
because
team has not reached its mission but is on its way.
because I mean, you're not the Argonauts.
We're on a journey.
You're running a shit business.
Game changer.
Oh, that is a game changer.
No brainer. 13%
Fuck
of
off.
people dislike that. Thought shower.
Only 13. Now I found that one, and I found it perverse.
It does sound like a kind of weird
Sex
post-physical sexual act, doesn't it? Like
Yeah.
when we're all just consciousnesses floating about in clouds, people are going to engage in thought showers
thought
behind
shower
the
me.
bins.
Oh,
Horrid, isn't it? I've never heard this one before. If you don't like it, get off the bus. That just sounds like something you'd say to someone on a bus. Yeah. That just sounds like something I've said to people on
it
a
has
bus.
no euphemistic potential.
Oh my god, a man on the bus the other day, I was trying to get home after a really long, boring lesson, and the bus just stopped at a stop for ages, as they want to do occasionally, but I could hear some commotion from downstairs, so people were beginning to peek over, and what followed was a 25-minute argument with a man who tried to pay for the bus with, you know, you're supposed to use an Oyster card. What this man was using was his own hand. And he was insisting that he'd placed the Oyster card on there, and somehow in the period between his hand touching the reader with the Oyster card between it, it had dematerialized. And the bus driver was like, but I saw you, you just put your hand there. And he was like, no, I didn't know. I had my Oyster card. And the guy was like, no, but it didn't beep, it didn't scan. What do you mean? He was like, well, I've paid. It's the principal. And this guy came and was like, can you please get off the bus? And he was like, no, but I've paid. I'm not going to. This went on for 20 minutes until at last the guy, he just seemed to reach a point where he was suddenly, after all this energy built and built and built, he was just deflated. He was like, didn't pay anyway, and just left. So it's 25 minutes of everyone's lives here.
Fucking, what is it about people on the bus? What is it with buses? I had another one that I told you about the other day where I was on the bus to tutoring, and while I was on the bus, it became a different bus. It just went, sorry, this is no longer the 186 to Harrow. This is the 279 to fucking Carlisle, where it was going.
We're a megabus
it was,
now.
Yeah, it was
Off
just
to Switzerland.
I was just like, oh, what do you mean?
Run it up the flagpole.
That is definitely sexual.
To trail or present... I think they mean trial. To trial or present an idea to see what kind of reaction it gets. What's that in reference to, though? You don't put a flag up to
Run it up
see
the
if
flagpole,
people like
see if
it.
anyone gets wood.
Horrible. Mission statement, that's a classic. Pick it up and run with it. Punch a puppy.
Now, I found that one, and I found it very, very disturbing.
It's a bit like Danielle's Eat the Frog. Remember that?
Don't eat the frog.
Eat the frog.
Eat the frog.
That's a good slogan. To do something horrible for the long-term good of the company. That almost exclusively sounds like it's used by seedy managers to get blowjobs from interns.
You got to punch me puppy.
You got to punch me puppy.
If you want to get anywhere in this world.
It worked for Harvey.
Fucking
It'll work for me.
Weinstein cunts.
Dreadful. And let's get our ducks in a row. Another tragic. Put a record on and see who dances. Put a record on and see who dances.
That's just the same as run it up the flagpole.
Yeah. Square the circle. That's just... it doesn't mean anything, though.
Does not mean
Why would
anything.
you even say it?
My favourite one that I found was to wash its own face, meaning that it will pay for itself. What? No one has ever said that in their lives.
Also, in that phraseology, to wash its own face, it sounds like something Gollum would say of like an ancient evil.
Washes its own face.
It's really upsetting. How about cascading relevant information? This sounds like office dirty talk as well.
Yeah.
And cascade so much relevant
fucking
information.
cascade it all over you, bitch.
Don't let the grass grow too long on this one. If someone said that to me, I would lawnmower their head.
How about we're all singing from the same hymn sheet?
Look under the bonnet. That's another sex one.
It's on my radar.
Low-hanging fruit. Got some low-hanging fruit there, Maud.
Peel the onion.
That's just... What does that mean? Because you have to do that. It's not
to examine a problem in detail.
But that's the first step of dealing with onions.
To examine a problem in detail. I think it's based on this weird idea that because people in business have obviously never cooked for themselves, they think you have to peel all of the layers of the onion
and look
and
under
then
each
put
one.
them in.
If you count them, it tells you how old it is. Someone else who's been coincidentally on the corporate hating bandwagon this week is long-term emailer Mark Stratfold. Isaac and Declan. The email is entitled "The Shame of Black Friday,"
which sounds like a 21st century ballad.
It sounds like something Bob Dylan would write about a man getting crushed in the TV aisle. And the Panasonic fell. Isaac and Declan, why is it that about 50% of the emails I'm receiving are for Black Friday sales? This continued infiltration of American ideas into our culture really infuriates me, as does it us.
Oh, goodness.
Also, Black Friday is unashamedly
racist.
Bullshit, I was going to say, but I guess. But I mean, nothing is reduced.
No.
Well, it's just a day that you shop on.
Yeah.
That's
the genius of it.
It's very clever. I even see it in the shops here in Paris, and it's not even Vendredi Noir. It remains firmly black. Vendredi Noir sounds like a kind of racially ambiguous 60s Bond villain.
Yeah, I was about to say Bond film.
Baron Samedi and Vendredi Noir together at last. Do we really need any more encouragement at this time of year to spend money and buy things that we probably really do not need? I don't think so. It seems that most of us are pretty motivated to do this already. What makes it worse is the association of this day with Thanksgiving, which historically is not really an occasion to be that thankful about. Let's celebrate us English turning up to a new land and massacring lots of the indigenous population. We tweeted about this.
Yeah, there was someone who did a tweet about the British in particular, like saying we'd have one of these holidays, but if we had one for every time we did this, we'd never be at work.
That's very true. I think that today this would be a hard sell for the basis of a public holiday and celebration. Having lived in America, I understand that it is now seen as a precious day when a lot of the family can get together. American employees do not get nearly the same holiday allowance as we do in Europe, so time off is precious, and a day when everyone is off together even more so. It's about the only day of the year when everything does actually shut down, apart from retail. So if you're in the USA, take the time, be thankful, and spend the long weekend together, and don't feel the need to waste precious family time by joining the manic crashes at the shops. In the UK, it's just a Friday. Get over it. If you really want to waste a day in the shops, go on Boxing Day. Regards, Mark.
Thank you,
Mark.
For your weekly dose of sanity.
Of insight.
Now, on the flip side...
We've had from the sublime to the ridiculous. Noah's been in touch. This prompted, I assume, by a discussion of dash buttons.
Yes.
We observed that the overwhelming majority of Amazon's dash buttons seem to feed directly into the cat food machine.
The cat food machine.
I meant in the sense
you make
of
it sound like Soylent Green.
Big farm. Noah emailed. He's got a sense of brevity about him. Often.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose, in the vein of Thought Monster, it's about pushing us.
Yeah, it's prompting for a response. He's just offering a thought and seeing what he gets back.
The thing is, I have none. I have no response to this thought.
Subject: cat food from Noah. What's odd about having a bag of cat food and no cat? Thoughts on that, Declan?
There are those kind of, I don't know if they're just made up for TV or if they actually exist, but there are supposedly those scenarios and like thought games that you can play to see if someone is like a sociopath.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the one about a woman turns up to her father's funeral, and there's a beautiful man there that she instantly falls in love with. She wants to be with him, but she doesn't know who he is, and he leaves before she can get his number or his name or anything. So how does she find out who he is?
Mm-hmm. Are you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
So she's at a funeral and there's a man there.
Yeah.
Her dad's funeral. Mm-hmm. You've got to resurrect the dad through the Ouija board.
Okay, well that just proves that you're a mental, not anything else. But the answer being she kills her mum to see if he comes along to that funeral as well.
That's not that good, is it? Really?
No, it's nonsense. But what I'm thinking is that if you don't know the answer to Noah's question, as seemingly Noah does not, it tells us more than we could ever tell you by answering.
Yes, that's probably fair. This has been an episode all about slogans, and we have one of our own on That's a Shame that we created many moons ago, many fat moons ago, if I may be so bold.
You may.
We like to say here that word of mouth, well, it's the best of mouth. Word of mouth is best of mouth. And what that means is that the show is only as good. I take that back already. The show's great, but it's even better.
It's only as good as what?
I was going to say, it's only as good as our listenership.
Oh, goodness.
Even when the mics are off, this show's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it only gets better with more involvement. And that means if you've got a little friend you can spy on the balcony.
Now, that's not, you're not saying like a dwarf.
I'm not saying a dwarf. I'm saying we're an inclusive show.
But they don't have to be a dwarf.
Not
is what I'm
exclusively.
clarifying.
No.
Okay.
I'm keeping...
When you say a little friend...
I mean, little in terms of stature or
that's what I was saying.
Emotional prowess.
Oh.
Status.
Definitely that.
A diminutive pal. How about that?
Yeah, okay.
Or a big friend.
Oh,
how about that?
Psych.
There you go.
No one in the middle.
A friend.
Giants and dwarves only.
Say you walk into your lunchroom and find that a woman is crying uncontrollably because she's been told that she'll never amount to more than a dead man's dream. Push her in the direction of this show. She probably won't like this episode because we've just discussed that and it might trigger her that.
It was fun watching you think up each word of dead man's dream one at a time as you do. Dead. What's next? Man's. Oh,
dream.
Careful now.
As we
Could
know,
be controversial.
That thought process led to some of the great slogans of our age. So back off. All right. Tell them is what I'm saying.
Just let them know.
Just spread the word. Your mum, your gran, anyone and everyone needs to get on board. The more, the merrier.
Preferably younger though, because your gran could die at any minute.
That's true. There's a very limited Patreon lifespan.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
She's got to
we
offer.
can't be dealing with that.
No, that's not on us, is it?
No.
Exercise your own judgment there. We've got many ways to get in touch with the show, as Noah and Mark have done. Tell us about those.
Well, you could if you had perhaps a troubling question,
Yep.
or if you had a diatribe about cultures and customs.
Yep.
You could email. That's one of the main ways. You
It's a
can
classic.
email us. TAS, that's TAS. Don't be putting a second S
That
on
would be
it.
so
We're
silly.
not That's a shame.
No. I might make the TASS email, and then anyone who sends there, I'm just going to block them
Block
from
them.
the show.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
We'll just haunt them.
Forever.
Okay, cool. That's done. So TAS, TAS at shame.city. You could get in touch via the website,
Oh, hell of a form on
which
there.
is shame.city. If you want to get in touch, pop a /contact.
Or just click contact. I've put it there for you.
could do
I've
that.
done the work for you.
It's
lads.
really, look, it's painfully easy to get in
It is.
touch with
It's
us.
all too easy. We're on Twitter.
We are on
at
Twitter.
That's a Shamecast. I'm enjoying our Twitter at the moment.
Yeah,
it's started to we've reached a point where it kind of is its own thing. Like people get in touch, we tweet every so often and people respond.
Yeah.
It's no longer feeling
getting
like an
tagged
uphill
in
battle.
stuff.
Yeah, tag us in anything that is a shame.
Now we've just got to conquer the great mount of Instagram.
And Facebook that we're never ever going to bother with. It's so much effort. But yeah, we're at That's a Shamecast. Declan's at Cynical Declan. I'm at Isaac BD. What else is there in the world? Reviews. That's what. It's coming up, don't you know, to that time of month, the end of the month specifically, where I get that email from this service that I signed up for and can't really remember the details from.
Good.
Where it just compiles all the reviews from all the different iTunes stores and sends them across.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
maybe in the next episode we'll be reading those out.
Oh, that would be nice. The next episode, of course,
What about
you.
it? Yeah, I'll be here.
You'll be different, though.
No, I'll be the same.
No,
Younger than
you
ever.
won't. You'll be
In the prime of life.
a year older.
I wouldn't say a
Isaac,
year old.
our dear Isaac, is going to be a quarter of a century old.
On Friday, December the 1st.
That is Isaac's birthday. So if you are
Don't
listening,
Be doing
send
anything
him
about it.
some birthday wishes. Make sure you come and try and see him. He loves being seen on his birthday. I think that I've literally never seen Isaac on his birthday.
I'm really worried about having to
And-
live with people on my birthday.
And I think that he goes into a sort of cocoon for the day.
I do. I have to cover myself in goose fat to roll back the age.
Yeah.
I don't know what I meant by that at all.
But yes, Isaac, so I'd like to wish you an official TAS happy birthday.
Well, thank you. I don't think it counts unless I'm wishing it as well. And I'm
No,
not going to.
no, it does.
Oh, okay.
So
I forgot about
there,
that. Well.
that's that.
Well, thank you very much.
Are you looking forward to it? I can tell by your face that you are.
No.
Isaac looks like he's been told this is it. Friday, it's 25 and out.
I mean, I'll have a nice day, I'm sure. I'm going out for dinner with my family and stuff. I'll get presents and cards. But will that counteract the crushing sense of my own mortality?
I think it probably won't.
And that's the greatest shame of all. This has been episode whatever the fuck it was.
53.
See you never again.
53. What's that? Isaac's age times 2 plus 3. We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder of my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities, oh Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be fonder, my new home. The bees are buzzing in the tree to make some honey just for me. The bare necessities of life will come to you. The bare necessities, the bare necessities, the bare necessities of life will come to you.